Welcome to Business Authority Radio, bringing you insights from today's thought leaders, professionals, and influencers. With your hosts, Neil Howe and Craig Williams.
Welcome to another edition of Business Authority Radio. This is Craig Williams, and I have the honor and pleasure to introduce Bryan Payne, CPA and MBA, founder of Apollos Partners. Bryan, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. It's nice to get a chance to talk to you. It's exciting. We'll say it's Apollos Partners.
Please, Apollos.
Apollos Partners.
Tomato. That's not it. Apollos Partners. You heard it. Our listeners are very clear now, and of course, it'll be spelled on the show notes, but it won't be pronounced. So now you're getting the pronunciation. Bryan, you are very unique. I did get to hear you at a recent meeting, and I love the comment about the asterisk by your CPA, outside of a number of other things. Share with us how you started in the business of finance and what you're doing now, but really the impetus of Apollos, like Apollo. Why am I, putting a U.S. in it? But Apollos Partners. Please share with us the beginning.
No problem. Yeah, thank you so very, very much. It's a pleasure speaking with you. Apollos Partners is a recruiting firm. We specialize in the placement of accountants and financial professionals on a permanent basis. However, I began my career not as a recruiter, but I began my career as an accountant. I started my career right out of high school. Actually, I had an opportunity to join Inroads, which is an organization that is dedicated and devoted towards developing and creating or helping minority populations grow to positions of leadership.
But that's starting as a youth, though, right?
Starting as a youth. And I had never really considered accounting, but as oftentimes quality youth programs can do, they introduced the profession of accounting to me, and I got an opportunity to join Ernst & Young right out of college. right out of high school at 18 years old.
Wow.
I worked out of the Cleveland office. So I worked there for 4 years while in school, and then continued on after graduation. The thing that I found interesting about accounting was it was the foundation of everything that happens in business. Whether you're losing money, you're making money, you got to have somebody there that's going to help you determine which way you're going. And yet I always saw it as a way to uncover kind of the truth of, what is happening within a business.
Gotcha.
So I left Ernst & Young, in 99 and, went into, recruiting, with the idea that, I now understand, what happens in a business enterprise. And yet during that time, while I was at Ernst & Young, I got my CPA.
So 1 minute,
Sure.
were you on a road to get a CPA, or were you just interested in being an accountant first?
Well, when I started at Ernst & Young, everybody there pretty much was a CPA. So it was one of those things that was championed, but I was a young man, and I was a young man
that was the environment too.
That was the environment, but I was a young man that thought he knew everything, and yet I didn't necessarily see the long-term value of the CPA, because it was always clear to me that though I went into it to discover a little bit, I didn't plan on doing it for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So the CPA is a hard test, and it takes a lot of time and energy. There were moments where I questioned if it made sense, but I'm pleased to say I put in the time and effort and energy. Took it 3 times, but it finally passed in 99. The reason I put the asterisk by it is, shortly thereafter I left accounting altogether.
Yeah.
But the value of that moment, those, that year and a half spending kind of challenging myself and pushing myself and learning has paid off, exponentially over
dividends.
The last 20 years.
I would say you being a product of your environment. I mean, because had there not been an environment with as many CPAs as Ernst & Young had, you might have talked yourself out of it. You may not have been as persistent as you were to go through it 3 times and the test 3 times to make sure you pass it. And you may not have held it.
Right.
Because there is continuing ed to keep that. I mean,
and actually that's what the asterisk is for, is it is a CPA inactive, which is, I've not kept up over the years, but the nice thing is, you report that you could always get it back.
Yeah.
But the thing that I got most value from it is the connections,
yes.
the knowledge, the insight, and the understanding of business and, what drives it that, you never forget.
And speaking of that, I mean, that's what probably encouraged you or inspired you to pursue your MBA then.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're on both sides.
Yeah, well, actually, I left EY in 99. I relocated. I was here in Atlanta, and I relocated to New York. And I got a job out of public accounting. And it was the dot-com boom, kind of the economy was burning up just like it is now. Unemployment was, almost to nothing. And it seemed like it would last forever. Opportunities were plentiful, but I didn't see anything that I really enjoyed. I didn't really buy into what do you call those click ads? The banner ad,
gotcha.
The banner ad revenue model. As the accountant, I could see that it was a flawed premise, a flawed revenue model. No matter how many people told me it was going to work, I got a couple of offers, decided not to take them, and my recruiter basically said, "Hey, I'm not sending you out on anything else. You can either." Take this job here at Robert Half, or you can, go on your own. I never thought about recruiting before in my life, but I figured, hey, it seemed interesting. And because I had gotten the CPA, I figured, hey, what's the risk? I take 6 months, decide it doesn't work out. I could always go back to accounting. If it does work out, it seemed like an opportunity to do what I thought was going to be most interesting, was kind of look back behind the curtain and see who the wizard was.
Yeah.
See who's pulling the strings, see why some people are succeeding in their careers and why others weren't. I kind of came to the table with my own preconceived notions and hypotheses, but I wanted to, see it for myself. And there's no better way to understand how decisions are being made and why they're being made than actually helping people to, find talent and kind of progress in their careers.
Wow, I mean, I look at CPA as very fundamental, and you mentioned it. It's important in business, but it's important in life. And unfortunately, this day and age, with the digital, using our phones to pay for stuff, and how often you see people put something in a ledger to hold themselves accountable. I remember I enjoyed having my first checking account because I was able to now record like the grown people did, that I just spent this money. But, and yes, we could go and look at our summary, our account summary, and see it. But it's something about making that logging that, making that accountability like a journaling, literally journaling, and having that story so that you could look back and have that history that you actually did, as opposed to an app doing it for you. And I think we've been detached as a society, and it certainly is showing up in a lot of the businesses. I think more businesses are starting, but just as many are failing than staying because they don't have that.
It's funny because you come back to that foundational knowledge that I gained at EY, which was during the dot-com boom, just similar circumstance. People were so excited about the prospect of what could happen that they failed to evaluate and pay attention to what is happening and what has happened. And accounting is about making sure that all of the hype is distilled, and what we are actually going to record is what has yet actually happened, or what is predictable that will happen. And accounting is also a mechanism whereby, this was pre-Sarbanes-Oxley, this was before the bubble and before multiple crashes, and it was very easy for people that were enthusiastic, visionaries, to present a picture of what they thought would happen in the future, and their accountants go along and say, okay, well, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And since there was those challenges, since the pendulum has swung a little bit further back, where you really have to. Accounting is challenging you to prove it, to have it on paper, to not recognize revenues when you think that you may have them in the future. But you make sure that you've actually recorded them. Which is important. And it's important because accounting is what informs your business decisions. It informs what you have, the resources that you have to expend, and then also help you to have appreciate how you have the return that you're going to gain, that you're going to realize on the dollars that you have already spent.
You talk about a pendulum, and with the letters after your name, CPA and MBA. That's a pretty broad pendulum, and I don't know if anything falls outside of that. The experience. I look at CPA as the revelation of what is the fact. It's reality, as you said. The MBA is perception, because you can have all the book knowledge, but until you have the experience of working that out, and to be as balanced as you are in that, to be a recruiter, that's a powerful value proposition.
Well, it's actually interesting because as I had mentioned, I started at Robert Half, and it is a recruiting model that is very volume based. Like lots of high volume business. It is something that sometimes you wonder, like, what is the true value proposition here? And I struggled with that. So after being there for a couple of years and working at another firm, I wanted to investigate, what is the long-term future for recruiting? Because
what's the whole? You worked with the half,
right? Exactly.
But what's the whole?
What's the whole?
I hear.
I wasn't sure at 28 years old or 29 years old if this was a viable option, because where is the true value proposition that you're providing to a business? So I went back to business school because I wanted to look into finance. I got an opportunity to, while I was there, I went to Emory, which is a great school, which is what brought me back here to Atlanta. For 2 years, really kind of wrestled with that question. And it was in an organizational management class that, kind of the light bulb went off of what is the value proposition of recruiting is, time is money, and the time that you, waste, dealing with, inadequate staff or inappropriate staff, or the time that you waste in your career, flailing in an enterprise where you're not growing and you're not developing, is an incredibly destructive force in the effectiveness both of your business and your own personal development. And as I sat there and I realized that, kind of time is money is universal law, and it is very difficult to find a partner that really is going to look at you and understand who you are, and look at not what you say you want to do, but when you go home, how do you feel? And yet, are you being ambitious because you're telling me that that's what you think I want to hear, or is that how you truly feel? Because ultimately, you can be excited on day one or day two, but day 158, people are going to return to who they are, both on the client side and the candidate side, and being able to anticipate that and understand that is something that, you can do if you've met with enough people, you've talked with enough people, you've heard enough stories. You can help other people predict what their future is going to be by seeing how other people have lived their lives. So I wanted to take that knowledge and, go back to recruiting. I was thinking I might work in finance. I had opportunity to work at Intel and Tech Ops Finance, which was great because they were talking about the future. This was '04 and they're talking about the digital home and how one day you could talk and your lights would turn on and your lights would turn off, and it sounded like Star Trek stuff at the time. But they showed me the prototypes and I was like, all right, this is the future. But even in that future, talent is going to make all the difference in the world, and making sure that you got the right people, they're going to ask the right questions, and they're going to be, an integral part of your environment is important.
Awesome. Bryan Payne with Apollos. I said it right.
Apollos Partners, yes.
Partners. Tell me about that name. I love the logo.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's an interesting story. It was a business that was born out of duress. As I mentioned, I went back to business school. I came out of business school and went into recruiting. This was '05. And by about '08, first couple of years were great, but by about '08, recruiters can see the future because we understand the first thing that happens when there's about to be a downturn is you start, hearing, oh, we're going to put that position on hold. Oh, Then people start calling you and saying, you people that you've been talking to and they tell you they love their jobs and they'll never leave, call you up out of the blue and say, I just got laid off. And then, clients that have been hiring like wildfire all of a sudden start saying, oh, sorry, I think we're going on a freeze. Then they're laying off, and then there's a cycle. I've seen it happen before. And by '08, I was, really nervous about that. And that's, and at the same point in time, I had a child. One of the things that I did, was, I wanted to return to my faith because God is very important to me. And I began reading. I made a plan, and I don't like a lot of people telling me how to interpret anything. So I said, I'm going to read the Bible beginning to end, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to do it. I don't like to read. I'm not a reader, but it's something that impacts every element of our lives every day. And it's something that I profess to believe, but I can't believe anything if I don't really understand it. That's my truth. So I sat and I read every day. This was '08 into '09, and I would sit out actually on my screen porch and read every night, going through the 1 year Bible, and I would read it religiously, literally, figuratively and literally. But one day, something just told me while I was reading it, just like, hey, Bryan, that BlackBerry you had with all your contacts that you've been carrying around, for the last 15 years, make sure you back that up somewhere. And I said, and I'm like, but I'm reading it. I'm like, I never stopped. And I said, nah, right now. Get up, go figure that out.
Like a Saul moment before he became Paul. Huh?
And I like the way you live with the Paul. So I got up. It was hard, and Blackberries did not synchronize very well. If you didn't, with your home computer. But I figured, I gotta. My mom, my wife, everybody's in this phone, and I gotta make sure I got this captured somewhere. So I backed everything up. Walked into work the next day, 10 o'clock. My boss asked me to take lunch, and I'm like,
take lunch, or he's taking you to lunch?
He's taking me to lunch.
Oh, take lunch would have been better, but
at 10 a.m. on a.
I've seen that on TV happen before.
Exactly, and I'm like, I don't want to take lunch right now. I'm like, I'm working. It's like I'm doing my best. It was at that time that he laid me off. Well, I was devastated. I had a 1-year-old child, I had a 4-year-old child. It was June 23rd, 2009.
Wow.
And the world was spiraling, and I was scared, but I'd been reading. And the lady that took care of my child said, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I went back to business school for entrepreneurship and finance, and I've learned how to survive for a while.
Strong foundation there.
Maybe I should go ahead and start a business. That's what I always wanted to do when I was a kid. And she said, you should name it from something from the Bible.
Yeah.
And my wife, who had a job, who now was the primary breadwinner in the house, immediately said, you should name it something that starts with an A. And I wrestled, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
Gotcha.
So I went back and I looked at the passage. And I said, well, what did the passage say? Where was I reading? What was God speaking to me when He told me? When He told me to take a moment away. The passage was, what after all is Apollos, and what is Paul? Only servants through whom one came to believe. As the Lord has assigned to each his task, I planted the seed. Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. And I stopped there and I said, well, there's my A. And Apollos, I did not even really understand it at the time, but the Lord reveals Himself to you over time. And Apollos was a contemporary of Paul's, who also carried the message of Christ, but to a different group with a different voice. Yeah. He wasn't a writer; he was a speaker. Which is why you don't have writings of Apollos, broad writings of Apollos. Some people believe he wrote Hebrew, some people didn't. Some people don't, but he was from Alexandria, which was in Egypt. So he was of in African descent, and he was a messenger that carried the story. And he watered the seed, but only God made it grow. And I figured, that's a message that I can get behind. So I named it after him.
That's powerful, man.
Thanks.
Powerful. That is awesome. I'm glad I asked.
Thanks.
I'm glad I asked. So, what do you see? I mean, accounting is as fundamental as it is, and of course, a certified public accountant has they're more specialized. What do you see has changed drastically in the industry, though?
I think the biggest change has been regulation over time. When I started, there was much greater latitude given to businesses to ascertain what value, kind of what was important in a balance sheet or an income statement. But as regulation has come in, PCAOB has gotten involved. There is a lot more scrutiny over what is happening and controls, procedures around making sure that kind of the information that is being presented to the public is accurate. I think that one of the challenges that has presented to people that are doing it is they can feel themselves kind of engaged in actions that are more checking boxes than adding value. And an important characteristic of employment is to make sure that you're always adding value to an organization, because that's ultimately how you are going to derive value with executive leadership. And if you are seen as many as, green eye shade bean counters that are caught up in minutia, your value is undermined. And that struggle and that challenge is something that, we'll see how that, proceeds in the future. But I think most hope that, accountants can, have a greater opportunity, and finance professionals as well can have more of an opportunity to make sure that they are involved in decisions, adding value to an organization and enterprise to make them grow. Awesome.
I'm looking over your shoulder and I see these 5 bullet points. But it starts off with use your woo, your ideation, restorative communication, and individualization. Is that just for you, or is that something that you pass on to your clients?
It's interesting. I use we talked earlier today off mic about assessments, and there is a assessment called Strength Finders 2.0, and it basically looks at what are your 5 core strengths and where can you position yourself to make sure that you are working in an environment of doing something where you can leverage what those 5 core strengths are. And those are my 5 core strengths.
Wow.
Which is, woo is winning others over. Ideation is, to kind of come up with unique ways to tackle a problem, to come up with new ideas. Wow. Restorative is something that I really kind of care a lot about. Is I like to help people be better, and to find ways that we can, that you can restore something that is broken, either in your career or in your life or in your organization, and improve. Communication is, I'm good at communicating and carrying that message. And then individualization is something that I really take a lot of pride in, which is I don't see people in groups. I see them as an individual. So you may be a CPA, but you're going to be Craig Williams CPA, and what is important to Craig Williams CPA is uniquely important to you. And if I treat you as if you are just a CPA, I could never actually add enough. I could never take advantage of what my skills are or add the value that you really need to see in your life.
Wow. The core and the center of those 5 characteristics, the restorative, I think is it's symbolic of what an accountant is. Excuse me. That's why I love podcasting. You don't have to edit anything. It could be. The restorative, as I listen to you, as I listen to your story, at my understanding of an accountant, the foundational, fundamental, the basis to build upon, it's a sustaining quality. Mm-hmm. And when we say restore, that means it was something there. But usually when you restore something, it's not to make it worse.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because then it's not restoration.
Right. Restorative in an accounting sense that's one of the reasons why I think accounting was attractive to me in the first place is, the accountant can see what is broken within a process, what is broken within your organization.
Because we measure that by money.
Right. Where are you leaking money? Where are you not seeing the value that you are seeing of the other dollars that you're spending on activities and endeavors that you may think have intrinsic value, but yet the accountants help you to determine, does it truly have intrinsic value? Is it really worth you allocating that dollar towards that end? And if you look at that carefully and you look at that closely, you can restore a business. You can make better choices. You can make sure that you are, getting maximum value out of what you have to offer. So you can offer more of it, or you can make a decision to offer less of it at a higher price. That to me is something that the accountant, a good accountant, will do well. And having the chance to partner with so many people over now 18 years, I've seen that come to be. I've seen people that join an organization and can have a true and a dynamic impact on the viability and the success of the organization, because they not only have an eye towards restoration, they have the capability to carry that message forward and communicate in a way that is received by those that are ultimately actors and acting and in the business interest. So you have somebody that works with you on that. That's a powerful tool.
Awesome. Bryan Payne of Apollos Partners. Before we close out, I'd like to ask you a question that I tend to ask everyone. What would you tell a 10-year younger Bryan Payne?
10-year younger Bryan Payne, I would say, follow your gut. Understand that your legacy will be determined by how you are going to impact the lives of others. So whatever you do, make sure that you are improving others' lives instead of impairing them.
Wow. How do we find you? How do our listeners find you? This will be on the show notes, but how do you?
You can find me at any point in time at www.apollospartners.com, and that is APOLLOS partners.com. Or you can call our line. It's 404-437-7500.
Thank you, Bryan. Really enjoyed
Hey, thank you very much, Craig. It's
this
been an absolute
restorative
pleasure.
conversation.
It was a joy. Thank you.
You've been listening to Business Authority Radio with Neil Howe and Craig Williams. To learn more about the resources mentioned in today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit businessauthorityradio.com.